The ocean can be indifferent and beautiful one moment and lethal the next. Off the Horn of Africa, where trade lanes converge and law enforcement is thin, that fierce duality is a daily reality. Small skiffs and fishing boats prowl the horizon. Crews scan for targets. Satellite imagery is checked and phone networks coordinate rendezvous points. On a day that began without fanfare, a small pirate force made a decision that would change their lives forever. They saw a helicopter in the sky and assumed it was an unarmed, slow-moving surveillance bird. A momentary chance to open fire, intimidate the crew, and claim ransom. They were wrong. What followed was a harsh lesson in the cost of misjudgment, and a demonstration of how modern naval aviation turns a mistake into instant and overwhelming consequence. In the early hours of the morning, during a routine patrol in one of the world's most dangerous maritime zones, an unexpected confrontation unfolded in the Gulf of Aden. Known for its high concentration of pirate activity, this notorious stretch of water became the stage for a dramatic clash between 5 armed assailants and one of the most capable military helicopters ever built. Believing they had spotted another vulnerable commercial vessel, the pirates closed in with overconfidence, unaware that their supposed target was being closely protected by a nearby U.S. Navy task force. At EO612 local time, a U.S. Navy MH-60 Seahawk designated Sabre 71 hovered 800 feet above the choppy waters, providing overwatch for the Endeavour's Spirit, a Liberian-flagged tanker transiting the internationally recommended transit corridor. Escorting the tanker was the USS Mason, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer. The scene appeared routine, the early sun reflecting off calm blue-gray waters, until a sudden breach in the tranquility signaled trouble. A small, fast-moving skiff detached from a cluster of fishing vessels off the tanker's starboard bow. On board were 5 men, 2 already standing and preparing weapons. Sabre 71's targeting sensors immediately tagged the skiff as a potential threat. One pirate hefted a PKM machine gun, while another produced an RPG-7 from a crate. Without hesitation, they opened fire. Tracer rounds streaked upward, hissing past the rotor craft. One bullet even ricocheted off the Seahawk's left sponson. In that moment, their mistake became fatal. They had just fired upon a U.S. Navy aircraft. The pilot of Sabre 71 executed a sharp evasive maneuver, banking right and climbing to 200 feet, while the door gunner unleashed controlled bursts from an M240 machine gun. Simultaneously, the crew contacted USS Mason for rules of engagement clarification. The destroyer's command center wasted no time. Hostile intent confirmed, proportional response authorized. The pirates attempted to flee, but it was already too late. The Seahawk deployed flares that blazed across the dawn sky while its infrared sensors tracked the skiff's every move. What the attackers failed to realize was that Sabre 71 was not merely a helicopter. It was a flying fortress, armed, armored, and backed by the full force of the United States Navy. Their fate was sealed the moment they pulled the trigger. To understand why the encounter escalated so fast, it helps to remember what piracy had become in the region. By the late 2000s, Somali piracy had grown into an industry. Crews trained on small arms and ladders, ransoms negotiated in offshore accounts, and networks that profited from multi-stage operations. The international community responded with convoys, armed guards onboard ships, and naval task groups patrolling choke points. Drones and maritime helicopters became standard tools. These assets provided rapid reconnaissance, overwatch, and, when rules of engagement permitted, immediate kinetic response. For pirates, the calculus shifted. While a skiff could still overwhelm an isolated merchantman, any contact with a well-equipped naval platform introduced risks they had not faced before. Still, gaps remained, moments when pirates could mistake capability for vulnerability. On that day, that mistake proved fatal. The aircraft in the sky that day was a maritime multi-mission helicopter, a platform designed for anti-submarine warfare, surface surveillance, and interdiction. Outfitted with armored components, a sensor turret, self-protection systems, and at least one crew-served weapon, These helicopters are compact war machines. They can fly low and slow for observation, then transition to high-speed attack profiles in seconds. Their crew includes a pilot trained to fly in dangerous littoral environments and gunners trained to prosecute small surface threats with precision. The Seahawk-class airframe, for example, is hardened against small arms fire, features infrared suppression systems, and carries weapons options such as an externally mounted machine gun, rockets, or precision-guided dispensers when the mission calls for them. That combination of protection, sensors, and weaponry turns a reconnaissance pass into a potential lethal intercept within moments. From the deck of a tiny skiff, the pirates saw the helicopter dip and hover. In the low sun and sea haze, depth perception can be deceptive and identification can be rushed. They raised Kalashnikovs and, driven by the fear that any aircraft might be a rival or a threat, opened fire. The rounds crackled in the air. Tracer streaks drew brief luminous lines across a blue horizon. Inside the helicopter, trained eyes recognized weapon signatures and ballistic impacts on armored panels. The crew did not panic. They executed protocol. A quick report went to the parent ship. Hostile fire received, 2 to 3 small arms, and within seconds the aircraft transitioned from observation to engagement posture. The combat mindset of maritime aviators is exacting. Identify, classify, and if necessary, neutralize. There is a narrow window to act, and at sea that window can be counted in heartbeats. The helicopters, gunner engaged with disciplined bursts designed to disable, rather than to create unnecessary casualties. A reality of modern naval engagement where legal and moral constraints guide actions as much as tactical ones. Tracer and armor-piercing rounds struck the skiff's engine mount, weapon racks, and structural timbers. The vessel began to lose speed and steerage almost immediately. Some attackers, realizing they had misread the situation, jumped overboard in desperate attempts to swim for safety. The helicopter maintained station overhead, its crew assessing splinter patterns and smoke plumes, ensuring that any secondary threats, another skiff coming to aid, were watched and tracked. Minutes later, a naval escort vessel closed on scene, launching a fast, rigid-hulled inflatable boat to secure survivors and collect evidence. The operation moved from kinetic action to law enforcement. Detain, document, and hand over to appropriate authorities for prosecution or processing. The pace and professionalism of the response communicated a simple truth. Misidentify an armed naval aviation asset as a soft target, and the consequences will be immediate and decisive. The sea rewards patience and punishes haste. The story of the pirates who attacked the wrong helicopter is a modern parable. Misinterpretation, bravado, and a lack of situational awareness ended careers and altered communal narratives. The harsh response was not wanton aggression. It was the logical consequence of a system designed to protect life at sea and commerce from predation. For navies, the episode reaffirmed the need for robust training, clear legal frameworks, and swift evidence collection. For communities preyed upon by pirates, it offered a cautionary note about the costs of criminal enterprise. And for the wider world that relies on safe maritime trade, it underscored a fundamental truth. The ocean's rules are impartial, and modern tools can enforce them with severe clarity. If this in-depth look into one of the ocean's darker encounters interested you, subscribe for more documentary-style episodes that unpack modern maritime security, special operations, and naval aviation. Tell us in the comments which case you want next: a longer history of piracy, a technical breakdown of naval helicopter capabilities, or a field report on counter-piracy legal regimes. Until next time, respect the sea, and remember that in the world's busiest waters, every decision can have consequences far beyond the horizon.